Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday, October 18th, the 289th day of the year. There's 74 days left in 2022, and welcome to another edition of Tuesdays with Thom. Boy, it's a little nippy out there today, but that's a good thing if it keeps the hurricanes away. So we can live with it. So we were not supposed to be very good. We were supposed to only win 2 games that season, and our coach was urged to retire. He was told, you can't win with that bunch. Along the way to winning 10 games, defeating 3 top 10 teams, ended the nation's longest winning streak a couple of times, and finishing number 5 in the country, good friend Clyde Bolton, a reporter from Birmingham, stuck us with the name the Amazins. 50 years later, we're still known as the Amazins. The team, and when I say the team, that includes quite a few people who played, those who managed, those who coached, and even those who only played that year. And maybe they didn't make it through the whole season. But we consider all of them teammates. They all come back for the every 10-year reunions. They come back because all agree that that year was amazing. So our G-list guests today are Terry Henley and Roger Mitchell, two former teammates of mine on the Auburn team, affectionately known as the Amazins. Why the Amazins? Well, you'll find out in the next hour. This edition of Tuesdays with Thom, of course, is sponsored by our partners, the Best Girl Consulting Firm. Best Girl has been providing customized solutions to executive issues for 34 years. Let's hear from Best Girl.
Best Girl is a consulting firm that provides customized leadership, access and inclusion, public relations, communications, and organizational consulting services. Clients include Fortune 500 companies, utilities, higher education institutions, small businesses, and associations. Best Girl's team of consultants, led by Joyce Gilly-Gossam, Emily Hedrick, and Sean Jones, partners with business and education clients to promote organizational effectiveness, communication, motivation, and leadership, with always an impact on the bottom line. Best Girl's customized consulting services include strategic planning, corporate communication, executive coaching, fundraising, and economic development.
Solution that fits your needs. I know that the guys who are coming on, our G-list guests is coming on, but I just want them to know that Tim Lacey's on here today, and he says he's here to call BS on anybody that steps out of bounds. I guess that would be me, but we'll go from there. So I want to go immediately to our roundtable regulars and introduce Barbara Wallace Edwards and Michael Walker. Good morning, Barbara and Michael.
Good morning. How are you gentlemen doing this morning?
Doing fine. Good morning, TG. Good morning, Barbara. Hope all is well.
Thank you, sir.
So what's happening with you, Barbara?
Well, Thom, I'm pretty excited for a lot of people this morning. I don't know if you heard the news, but on yesterday, a bill went into action that President Biden signed back in July that allows people to purchase hearing aids over the counter. And whereas it used to cost upwards of $6,000 to purchase a pair of hearing aids, I think now you can purchase them for around $200 a pair. And that's a game changer for so many people. It's just been amazing. I've read one story yesterday where one gentleman 6 years ago received a prescription for hearing aid, and he went and started pricing them, couldn't find anything less than $4,000, and he and his wife just couldn't afford it because they lived on a fixed income. And so he said that was the first thing he did yesterday was get up and go to the pharmacy to purchase his pair of hearing aids. So that's pretty good news for a lot of people, not just the elderly. Yeah. There's so many people that suffer from hearing loss.
We bought one for my dad when he was still around. Yeah, I think it was $2,000-$3,000.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that is good news. That's great.
Yes, and people lose them. They're so small. I have a friend of mine who's she takes care of her elderly relative, and she said that she's purchased 3 different pairs and keeps losing her hearing aids. So again, that's a lot of money they've thrown down. So it's going to be again a major game changer for so many people.
Well, that's when they went to those small ones, because when we were little, Man, the big old things, they were embarrassing to people.
Huge.
People didn't want to wear.
They were
It was
huge.
like you had a transistor radio on your head, you know?
Yeah, now they're small. They look like the earpieces for, telephone, just a Bluetooth kind of thing. So it's going to be make a real difference in a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, that is going to make a monumental change for people in the general public. But for years, people that were of age of Medicare and had Medicare Advantage plans, they were able to get the hearing aids. Some companies like Blue Cross Blue Shield and Humana would give away the first pair of hearing aids if you signed up on the Medicare Advantage plan. And so they have been available like that, only though for people that had Medicare,
right,
and had that plan. Yeah.
Okay, Michael, what else you got?
Well, you know how we all complain about going to the doctor and have to sit in the waiting room. They give you an appointment, say at 9 o'clock, and you go to the waiting room and you're there with a bunch of people and you're still sitting there at 10:30. Well, in the future, that just may change. And that's as a result of telehealth visits that increased by 154% during COVID. But now they have what's called dedicated virtual care platforms. Companies like eVisit and American Well will allow doctors to provide an approximation of a real visit. And the platforms developed so that they can integrate the data from the patient's devices. So, for example, a patient could connect their health wearable to a telemedicine platform, which would allow the doctor to check their vitals in real time without having to come to the waiting room or go to a visit. And all of this stuff, as far as new technology, is going to be held together by 5G. You know, we all have 5G now with our cell phones and what have you. And so 5G is going to allow doctors to do HD video calls during telemedicine conversations. And they're going to also allow them to be able to pull data in and do it everything without you having to come to the office. So looking forward to that. More people may go to the doctor then.
It's pretty cool.
You know what I'm looking forward to as far as the medical profession goes. You go see a doctor, and then you got to go get the X-rays. Then you got to go see the specialist. And they all ask you the same information over and over and over again.
Right.
Exactly.
It's like I just said, don't you have the record over there that I just gave them that information?
Yes.
Right.
And
well,
20
all
years
of this
ago,
is going to tie it together, as a matter of fact, because the 5G and the internet will allow them to pull all your records. And we've been talking about that for a while in the healthcare arena because of just what you said, Thom. Everywhere you go, you got to fill out the same stuff all over again. And then you say, well, ask that doctor. Well, I can't get it from that doctor. And because of some laws and what have you. But now with technology, utilizing 5G, they're going to be able to pull it all, and they're going to warehouse it all in one area. So then the doctor can just go in and get it and have your medical history.
That's good to hear, because I work for a large insurance company, and 20 years ago they were working on a platform where it all would be housed together, and they could pull it down from the insurance companies. You didn't have to fill it out anywhere because the insurance company has most of that information already. So I'm glad to hear that it's finally coming to fruition, and it's going to save people a lot of time.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
That helps with that waiting period you were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. They also say that 5G will allow the infrastructure to operate, get this, self-driving ambulance. And in this model, the paramedics would focus on the patient. Okay.
I don't know about that, Michael.
No.
I don't want to get in
Especially if they're going to be going 60, 70 miles an hour with the siren, No, I'm going to pass on that one.
Well, you may not even know, Thom. Okay. It'll be like that surprise building thing. Now
that I've heard you say it, if I have to get in the ambulance, I'm going to go around to the driver's side and see who's in there. And it's like, no, I think I'll just drive myself, man. I'll see y'all over there.
Meet me there.
Yeah. Well, basically, it's intended for the paramedics to focus on the patient at hand while the smart ambulance drives itself to the ER room. So they are working on the patient. So that's coming.
Okay.
Interesting.
And I did see where, and this is a while back, and I don't remember the particulars, a couple of self-driving cars had accidents or what have you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah, they
think we
haven't
got a
worked out
ways
all
to
the
go.
kinks yet. We want
Yeah.
them to work all of those kinks out before they start the self-driving ambulance.
There you go. There you go. Well, we're going to be talking about a lot of football here in a minute, but let me just ask you guys, did you get to see Tennessee and Alabama?
I did.
I
I did.
did.
Excuse me, man, what a game. What a
It
game.
was.
It was a great game.
Yes, it
amazing.
was.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
two great quarterbacks.
Yes.
It's the first time I really watched that Bryce, whatever his last name is.
Bryce
And,
Young. Yes.
man, that little joker's tough.
He
God
is.
almighty, he knows where his receivers are. When he's scrambling,
Yes.
he's got his eyes downfield. He knows where it's. And then that hooker was something else.
Oh, yes.
So,
And you know, he's a transfer. Hendon Hooker was at, I think, Virginia Tech or Virginia and transferred into Tennessee. And he transferred in there, and Pruitt was terminated. And then they brought in Josh Heupel. And Heupel kept him, and here he is.
well, that's probably the smartest thing Heupel ever. The smartest thing Heupel ever did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, what else you got for us?
Well, I will say this about the Auburn Ole Miss game.
I was trying to avoid that subject.
I was going to say, I wasn't going to bring it up today. Michael?
Well, you know, this is something, Thom, you and I, we talk about strategy and all this stuff, and we talk about coaching. And in that game, you could see the momentum was shifting towards Auburn, especially right before the half or somewhere along in there or right after the half. And I always make this statement that every coach ought to be good for at least one touchdown on his home turf. And that's exactly what Lane Kiffin did. Because after they scored to get back ahead of Auburn, they came with the onside kick right there. Thom, you made the comment he was coaching to win. I think he was coaching also to win, but he knew the momentum was changing, and he needed to give his team another lift. They got the ball, scored another touchdown. They ended up winning by 2 touchdowns. And that's what I always say, that a good coach is good for a touchdown on his home turf, at least one, to help his team.
I think sometimes some coaches, when you don't feel like you can match them in talent, you play not to lose. And 9 times out of 10, you're going to lose. You got to play to win. And I thought Lane Kiffin was playing to win. So hopefully things will look different as we go down the road. I wonder if I see Antlers on here. I wonder if we could play South Carolina 2 or 3 times and get our record built up.
Now, you know, Anthony's going to have a smart comeback on that one.
Barbara, you got anything else?
No, Thom, I do want to wish a happy belated birthday to my niece, Destina Wallace, and my great nephew, Chad Wallace. So didn't get a chance to see either one of them. Of course, one lives in Delaware and the other one lives in Atlanta. So happy birthday to both of my babies.
Okay, well, Michael, before we go, I know you're over in Georgia and you're involved in the political scene and so on and so forth. So what's the latest?
Well, as you know, probably, well, you may not know because you're in Florida, but there was a debate, the one and only debate between Herschel Walker and Senator Warnock, and it happened on Friday night at 7 o'clock. Originally, it was scheduled for Monday, and Herschel complained about that's the night of Monday Night Football. Let's move it to that Tuesday. Well, somehow it got moved to Friday night at 7. Not many people would see that, but I saw it.
Yeah.
I think one of the interesting things that came out of that, you know, Herschel had been talking about him working with law enforcement and what have you, and doing training and all of this. And during the debate, Senator Warnock said, "My opponent has a problem with the truth. I have never claimed to be a police officer." And Herschel said, "Well, I'm glad you brought that up." He reached in his coat pocket and pulled out his honorary sheriff badge and held it up. And, you know, it was a really funny moment. And then the people that were in control, this young lady, she said, Mr. Walker, you know the rules. You cannot bring a prop on the set. That is a prop. You have to put it away.
And his response was, that's not a prop, it's real.
Yeah.
Right. I saw that. I did see that.
But the funny thing was there was a comment on Facebook that said he pulled out that Cracker Jack box. Something he got out the Cracker Jack box, and he was like, "It's real, it's real."
Yeah, if it's real, I've got one. Guy gave me a honorary sheriff's badge maybe 20-something years ago. So I keep it in my car right there by the steering wheel. So if I get stopped, they can see it. So now that I know it's real, I'm fine. So I'll just hand it to the officer next
Thom,
time I get stopped.
Well,
not just when you get stopped, you probably can arrest people and everything. You see
Oh,
somebody
yeah, that's
littering
right.
or
That's
whatever.
right.
You might want to try it.
well, that's the very reason why they have stopped giving them out, because they said the people that they were giving them to were going around impersonating police officers and trying to arrest people and what have you. And every time, just what Thom said, every time someone got pulled over for a speeding ticket, they flashed that badge. And so this guy came on and said, the people that have those, they can't even write a speeding ticket. They have no authority whatsoever. It's just an honorary type thing. But that's, in Herschel's mind, it's real. He was working with the police department. So I think it's very ironic that Herschel, it came out yesterday that Herschel admitted that the check that was written regarding the abortion he paid for by a former girlfriend, that it was his check. And when they interviewed him, he put his glasses on and said, "Let me look at that," and stuff. And he looked at it with these big, thick glasses on. And then he said, "Yeah, that's my check. But I wrote it, but that wasn't what it was intended for."
I don't know, Herschel.
Yes, you do, Thom. Yes, you do.
But I will say that Newt Gingrich has been vowing for him and said he's had a lot of hits to the head. He's got CTE. Newt Gingrich actually said that on Fox and trying to.
He might actually have CTE. I mean, he's kind of joking, but he may have.
No, I wasn't
joking.
Didn't
show up
really
when he gets a little older.
Right.
When it kind of shows up. So I don't know.
We don't need anyone with CTE in the Senate. I don't think so. Hopefully the people in Georgia will be smart and choose the right candidate.
I'll just be glad when it's all over. I tell you. Politics is a mess these days.
I tell you what, I think this is going to happen. I think it's going to be a runoff between Senator Warnock and Herschel Walker. I don't think anyone will really win outright unless there is a big defection over to Warnock's side or what have you. But we'll see. But with the Libertarian in there, and neither one has been polling over 50%. In Georgia, you have to have 50 plus one.
Mm-hmm.
So if
I hadn't even heard. Go ahead.
Whoever is the leading vote getter, if he doesn't get 50 plus one, then it goes into a runoff between he and the second most leading vote getter. So it's quite possible we could have a runoff and this will start all over again.
I didn't even know there was a Libertarian in it. I didn't either. Heard about that.
I had not heard of that.
Yes, there is a Libertarian. They feel like the Libertarian would probably pull some of the votes from either one of them. Usually the Libertarian pulls from the Republican candidate. In this case, he may pull from the Democrat. We don't know for sure yet.
Okay, well, thank you guys. Let me say good morning to a couple of people who are here. Becky Davis Gibson. Becky, I got a text from your brother Rhett the other day, and Gloria Owens. Good morning, Gloria. I hope you're doing well. Terry's on here today. I know you probably know that. Antley, good morning. Paula, good morning. And Tim, I said Tim Lacey was on here. Whether Tim is one of the Amazins, so he'll be with us next week when we go and have the big the big reunion. So is there anything else you guys got? Okay, well let's move on. Thank you very much. Let's go to Sean. Sean's got a minute to talk to us. Sean.
Good morning. My name is Sean Jones, and this has Got a Minute. Hello to everyone joining in with us this morning. It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, an annual campaign to raise awareness about the impact of breast cancer. The National Breast Cancer Foundation works to ensure that every woman has access to the screening she needs and the support she deserves. The NBCF helps educate us on different types of breast cancer, the myths that surround them, as well as what breast cancer really is. Now, before I leave, I have some disturbing history facts for you. Did you know that on this day in 1974, soul singer Al Green, who sang "Tired of Being Alone, Let's Stay Together, and I'm Still in Love with You," was attacked in his very own bathtub? There can be no question that anyone would have been shaken by the events that transpired when an ex-girlfriend busted in on him in the bathroom and poured a pot of scalding hot grits on his back before retreating into the bedroom and taking her own life. Al Green believed that he had strayed from the righteous musical and spiritual course intended for him. So after the attack, he began a process that would eventually lead him to renounce pop stardom and all that it stood for. Thank you all for joining in. My name is Sean Jones, and this has Got a Minute.
Thank you, Sean. You didn't tell us. They changed his name to Al Grits Green after that.
After that, that's right.
So I'm gonna go to the G list, guys. Thank you. We'll our G list. Hollywood has the A list, and here on Tuesdays with Thom, we have the G list. Let's see. Our G list guests today are two players from the team I described in my opening comment: the Amazins, Terry Henley and Roger Mitchell. Let's see. Roger Mitchell transferred to Auburn in 1970 from the United States Coast Guard Academy, where he lettered in 3 sports: football, track, and golf. His first year was spent on the scout team. He made the team in subsequent years. The next 3 years, he played on specialty teams and in the secondary. Roger spent 30 plus years after graduation in manufactured housing and in 7 plus years in financial and investment planning. He is retired. He enjoys golf, hunting, and Auburn activities. And Terry Henley. Terry played collegiately at Auburn, where he was named first team All-SEC, second team All-American in 1972. For the 72 season, he was the leading rusher in the SEC with a 94-yard average per game. He was elected to the Auburn 1970s All-Decade team. He played professionally for Atlanta Falcons, Birmingham Americans, Washington, and the New England Patriots. He is a senior VP at Palomar Insurance and has been with them since 1980. So let's welcome the gentleman on. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How we doing?
Just living that
Good.
dream.
Glad to be here.
All right, good deal. So let's just start out and talk a little bit about the Amazins and how that name came about. And so who wants to jump in first?
Go ahead, Terry.
You want me to start? Okay. Well, the Amazins, it was amazing to Coach Jordan that he could get us all there at 1 o'clock to play, pool hall, from playing pool and some of the others finding their way out of the dorm, and getting them up out of bed to get them over there, was always a challenge. But what a great bunch of guys we had the pleasure of playing with. My goodness alive.
It was. It is.
Terry, I
Roger?
remember Coach Jordan pulled us up early that spring and said, I've been around a long time. And he said, you can bring on the Oklahomas, the Nebraskas, the Southern Cals. I'll take this bunch and play anybody. And we thought he had lost his mind. But he was right. We could play with him.
You know, I think the thing that's really interesting to me is we have these reunions every 10 years. And man, pretty much everybody that's living and capable comes back. And it isn't just, you know, there are guys who come back, maybe they played that whole year, maybe that was the only year they played, or maybe they played that whole year, but and then we have the managers, and we even have a couple of reporters over time, and a couple of coaches when they were still living. So there's something that was special, and I don't know what was it. Do we know what it was?
It's team. That's what it was. It was team. We all cared for each other. We all pull for each other. You know, when there's a thing about the dormitory there that we lived in, and of course, what an animal house it was. But never. It was camaraderie. It was camaraderie. We ate together. We slept together. I remember in the 71 team, Terry Page at nighttime, he would get scared before big ball games. He'd come over and get in the bed with me. He would say he was scared. I said, well, the only thing blocking on extra points. What does that matter? But we had an outstanding group of guys that we listen. And I think when one has fallen on bad times or bad things have happened, we've all been there for that person. You just can't. It's hard to describe the affection that everyone has for each other.
Terry, I think you have. I don't know what the word is, but you've assumed this role where you pretty much stay in touch with all the guys. Now that we got the internet and all that, but when something happens, you generally will get an email out, and it'll go out to almost 100 guys, and I think they look forward to it actually. So, you want to talk about that?
Well, it's even my senior class in high school, I sent out the birthdays every month. It's just something that I started doing, 50 something years ago, and it hadn't stopped. I mean, it's just it's a joy for me really to send out when somebody's got a new grandbaby, or of course that's what we're doing now, or to send a note that somebody needs some well wishes for a health issue, and listen, like I tell everybody, all of you would do it for me.
That's true. Now, some of those defensive guys might not want to do it for you, but that's okay.
We ran over them.
No.
We'd go out there. We go even.
Hey, Tom, we would much rather have Terry running that ball than Harry Ongo or J.O.
Yeah, we'd like to go break a sweat today against this defense. My goodness.
So, Roger. So
yeah,
I was going to ask you to tell us about that spring training. They pitted the offense against the defense, and on offense, we had what, 5, 6 sophomores. We had guys who hadn't played a down in the SEC. I hadn't played a down in the SEC, but well, you'd rather face the defense than face Coach Lorendo.
Listen, we started working about a week after Oklahoma ran it down our throat in the Sugar Bowl, and we were hiding up under the stadium on asphalt doing stuff. But the first official scrimmage of spring training, Terry will remember it. They walked up to the line of scrimmage. They would point, we coming right at you, Burnich, and it's on 1. Next play, they'd walk up, we coming right at you, Newton, it's on 1. And, you know, I was lucky enough to be playing safety on the tight end, and he was a little small guy, 6'4", about 250, Nugent. And so I didn't have any problem with him. But,
Yeah.
I mean, it was at the whistle, it would be chaos. It'd just be, I mean, we would blow it up, but that's what made us. Toughness, and we gelled together. And if you remember that first scrimmage, Terry, y'all might have made 1 first down or so in about 4 quarters. And then we walked down to the south end zone, and y'all got in the huddle. We're going to do goal line, and came up to the line of scrimmage, and Lorendo didn't say a thing. It was quiet as a mouse. We didn't know what you were going to run, didn't know where it was going to go. And he ran a little influence play and didn't give you the ball, which was a shocker. Handed it to the Big O, and the Big O was ready to go in. He was worn out. He'd been colliding with Nugent and Sanspree and everybody every play. And he hit me about the 5 or 6 yard line. And there was a tarpaulin at the back of the end zone up against the bleachers, and that's where he parked me, was on that tarpaulin. And then he reached down and picked me up and said, "You little DBs like a bunch of gnats. Y'all just get out of the way. Get out of the way. Get out."
Well, and Thomas, somehow or another, I don't remember it quite that way. I remember as we ran by Roger, we waved at him as we went into the goal line. I remember those, but I don't remember them stopping us. You know, that was not something that happened. But let me tell y'all, and I've said this and I'll say it forever, that the key ingredients, it's not to knock any coach that we've had that we'd had in the past. It was just what happened in the present. Coach Pat Morris was a key ingredient to the Auburn football team joining us after that Oklahoma debacle. Okay, he brought something. I don't know how you could bring any more toughness than we already had, but he did. He brought more callous. I mean, he wouldn't take anything less than the best. Nothing, absolutely nothing. I mean, I remember him jumping on Lee Gross and twisting his head with his helmet.
I remember that.
Pull him off of Lee Gross. I mean, and he was hollering at him for trying to get away from Benny Sibley. And he said, I won't stand for that. You know,
Yeah.
And of course, you know, I would try to get away from Benny Sibley also. And
That
J.K.
man was a man.
Yeah. And listen, then we had to, you know, I often tell people say, you got to play the game 60 minutes. The game is 60 long. I think the game that you saw between Tennessee and that other team Saturday, you know, that they played 60 minutes. They played 60. We played 60 minutes. If you play 60 minutes and you play it hard enough, there's a very good chance you're going to win that ball game.
Yeah.
Right.
And we had this thing. You remember we played Tennessee and we ran the same play about 14 times in a row. 21 power.
Hey, we drove 81 yards in 14 plays. I carried it 12 of the 14, the last 10 in a row. The same all the way to this, you know.
And I was coming back to the huddle and the Tennessee safety said, "Y'all ain't gonna run that same play again, are you?" I said, more than likely we will.
I got a new sofa on the swap shop I'm trying to sell there. That was a phone call. They call it.
As a defensive player, when y'all scored, we started jumping up down because we said they're not going to cross midfield. We knew we had them.
Yeah.
We had a great game plan, and as long as we could keep Condredge corralled and keep him from getting outside, we felt like we could shut him out.
I think that was the toughest game Condredge
almost
ever
did.
had. We did. That was when we got named the Amazins, I think, was the Tennessee game.
Now, listen, we have set Tennessee up by beating the stew out of Chattanooga 14-7.
14-7.
Well, we were only predicted to beat Chattanooga in Mississippi State.
Game to keep it from being tied or losing.
Yeah. So I got a couple of people on here. Terry, Becky Davis Gibson says hello, and Rhett's sister. Becky, Debbie Carter Richburg. Hi, Terry. This is Debbie Carter Richburg, Rhonda's freshman sweet mate. I still laugh at a joke you told me in 1970. Oh, she's held on to that one a little while, huh?
I probably told her I was rich.
Let's see. Okay. Gloria Gloria wants to remind us all that it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and so
that's right.
Okay, Michael, Barbara, you got questions?
Go ahead, Barbara.
Oh, I just want to say thank you guys for joining us today. This has been amusing. I'm enjoying it so much. But 1972, the year of the Amazins, again, you were ranked to not do very well that year. End up winning 10 games, losing only to LSU. I want to ask each one of you, which game stood out the most to you that particular year, including you, Thom? But we'll start with Terry. Tell us which game and why.
Well, I guess the Ole Miss game, I guess, stood out to most of me. And the reason why, we played Mississippi State the opening game in Jackson, and we were an underdog, and we beat them 14-3. And I carried the ball 32 times that night, and we snapped it 42 times. So those other 10 plays, I don't know what they were. But then we come back.
Big O took one in.
Here we go play. Yes, and they have the longest winning streak in the country at that time, and got to play them in Jackson, and I carried the ball another 36 times that night, and we win that ball game 19-13. But it wasn't just the 36 carries; it was them having that, but Ole Miss having the ball at the 1 yard line, and that defense said, "No, you're not getting in here." And they end up 4th and 6, I believe, Roger. You shoved them back to the 6 yard line, and Eddie Welch knocks the ball out of the quarterback's hand, and we end up knocking a pass down on 4th down in the end zone. Mike Neal does, and we preserve the win 19-13. So I would have to say the Ole Miss ball game was a very and we did that on my birthday, by the way. So
wow, what a birthday present!
Good birthday.
Yeah. Okay, Roger.
Hey, Terry, they had a tight end and wide receiver that was 6'4", 230, could run like a deer. His name was Butch Veazey. And on 3rd down, Beck got shaken up a little bit, and I had to go in there, and there I was on Butch Veazey in the slot. And I knew they were going to him, and I was all over him. I probably interfered with him, but he didn't catch it. And the next week when we watching the film, Coach Mitchell said, "I was following you out there with the bucket because you was crapping in your pants going in there in that situation." Coach Mitchell could keep it loose. He believed in all of us, and I miss him.
I think my favorite was Ole Miss as well, because that's when I caught my first touchdown against Ole Miss. I think it was about 40-something yards. And when I caught the ball, I ran in, so I didn't know what to do, so I fell down. And, and the first person I saw was the Big O. He came down there and hugged me and everything. but also Mississippi State, because it was the first game. And I remember it was at night, and all I was thinking about, I knew my dad was listening to the radio. I knew he was there listening, and that just meant a lot to me. And so it was great. And what I remember, and Terry, I've heard you talk about this. We came out there, and I was warming up with our quarterback, Randy, and he kept going. He says, "Thomas, God, something's wrong." He was sweating. He said, something's wrong. And I look, he had his jersey on backwards. I said, "You got your jersey on backwards, man."
I tell people all the time, you never heard me give a speech in the dressing room. It was not my thing. You don't know that. And I used to sit over there and look at the program to see if they had a colored picture of me in there, or something like that. If you remember, Johnny Simmons asked, could he speak? And Johnny Simmons got up and gave one of the most memorable dressing room talks I have ever heard in my life. And here's a guy in 4 years that hadn't said 10 words, and he gets up and gives a speech, and all of y'all start hollering and screaming, and Coach Durden says, "Johnny, you can speak anytime." And then Coach Durden said, "Whoop them right here with 5 plays," and everybody starts hollering and everything. And I go over to Johnny and say, "Damn, I didn't know you could talk like that, John." Coach Durden, I'm going out the dressing room, and I say 5 plays. He said 5. I said, "Well, we only got 8. What are we saving them other 3 for?" What a great, listen. Cher sings a song, "Turn Back Time." And I often think of that all the time. What I would give to turn back time to be in that dress room with all you guys. I mean, just a win or before a big game. It was something that was, you can't dream it of what it was about.
Right. That's awesome.
How grateful we are to have been there at the time when we were there. I mean, the teammates that we had, Heisman Trophy winners, All-Americans, but just everybody had their job and they did it, and they did it together. And I'm grateful and humbled, and it tears me up every time I talk about it.
Oh, wow.
Michael?
Yes, I'm going to ask this question, and I'll start with you, Roger, first, and then Terry, you can respond. The transfer portal, and I asked you that because you transferred into Auburn from the United States Coast Guard. What's the difference between when you transferred at that time and the transfer portal now?
Michael, when I transferred, I had gained 10 or 12 pounds, and I felt confident that I could play in the SEC. But I had to sit out a full year. You were ineligible when you transferred. And let me just say this. When you're ineligible and you're a walk-on, you are live meat. And after the first practice, I drove down to Eufaula to get some pads that actually fit. Now, I had already changed my mind about what position I was going to try to play. I was a running back in high school and receiver and everything, but we had Wallace Clark, Mickey Zofko, Terry, Harry Ongo, Big O, and most of them were 200 plus. And so I said at 165, I started looking at wide receiver and defensive back. But my goal was just to survive that first year. And I knew I could make a contribution, and I felt like I could make the team after about 2 practices. And we used to have a Monday scrimmage for all the backups and the folks that were redshirted. And it was
Toilet bowl, they called it. That's right.
Toilet bowl. And Thom walked on, and so he might have played in the toilet bowl or 2, but that's when you could show off, when you could actually do something and get somebody's attention. And we didn't have a corner blitz, but I told who was our coach? I'm having a senior moment. Defensive back coach Bill Oliver. I told Coach Oliver, I said, Coach, I'm gonna run this corner blitz because they ain't coming my way, and I did, and I sacked old Bruner, and I smashed him pretty good and jumped up and kind of gave him the all 165 pounds. I stood over him like I was a big thing, and Coach Oliver came back to the defensive huddle and he said, "Don't you go anywhere. You're gonna play. You just stay right here." And then Coach Oliver leaves.
Yeah.
But there were little bitty incremental things that happened that would keep me fired up. And Thom, I knew you were going to play the first day, and we had several walk-ons that I knew were going to play, and it wasn't easy, but I was grateful and thankful that I had that opportunity. And one time, Coach Grist, that Coach Jordan called Coach Grist came to practice, and Coach Jordan called me over, and I still had that dark blue jersey on, and he said, "Coach Grist tells me you were honor camper at his camp." I said, "Yes, sir, I sure was." And he said, "Well, that's a big honor." I said, "Yes, sir, Coach." And Bucky Philippi was the next year. So, Coach Grist, little things like that kept me interested. That was the first time I had ever talked to Coach Jordan at practice.
Yeah.
And his coach came by, and they were riding around in the golf cart.
You need those little things when you're a walk-on.
Michael,
Go ahead, Ted.
I'm going to take it a different level here. First of all, I will agree with Roger. The first time I saw Thomas run, I mean, he could outrun half the cars in the parking lot. So, I mean, he was going to stop.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. But I was born an Auburn guy. And I'm going to die one. And I would have crawled on hot coals to come to Auburn. Yes, I was a high school All-American and sought after and all those kind of things, but I was going to Auburn no matter what. And today I challenge and question the guys today of their love for the school that they play for. I really do. And
I agree.
You see this team here, the way they come back. They come back because they love that team, but they also come back because they love Auburn. The sacrifices, the injuries, and everything, the aches and pains they have later on in life to have played the game for Auburn, not for themselves, but for Auburn. And Coach Jordan,
that's right,
because he was getting on to me about my longer hair and stuff like that. He said, "You're going to follow the rules." He said, "Because if you don't, Auburn's going to have a football team, whether you're here or whether I'm here." Okay. And the more you learn that you've got to confide with the rules, you're going to be better off, And I just today, with the NIL money and the transfer portal and all that, you can just, it's like having 9 wives. You can just go from this wife to the next wife to the next wife to the next wife and never have a commitment. I love Auburn. I love Auburn, and it's an energy, it's a spirit, it's a belief that I will always be in my heart. And that's what Pat Dye and I used to argue about. He said, "Well, I'm an Auburn man." I said, "No, you're a transfer. You're So, you get two sides of it there, from Roger being in the portal and get me, who was, from the time I rode around in a pickup truck when I was a little boy listening to the radio with my granddaddy. I knew that I wanted to go to Auburn.
I appreciate that comment. That it's interesting that one of the commits recently was asked about the situation at Auburn, and his comment was, I committed to the school, not to the coach. So that falls in line with what you're talking about.
Yes, sir.
Let
Yeah.
me, I'm going to go back to Roger and the walk-on thing. We were the scout team guys, and we were, they were, the defense was first team defense, and this was these guys. This was when they were the guys with Pat and all of them. They were trying to learn that wishbone, man, because that wishbone was giving them fits and stuff. So they had us running Kent Higdon. You remember Higdon? And we were lining up to run the wishbone, and Higdon faked that thing in there, boy, and he pitched it to me. And I mean, it was a crease in there. And I hit that crease, boy, and I went about 50 yards for a touchdown. I was jumping up and down, so excited. Coach Davis was pissed, buddy. He said, "Run it again." I said, "Damn, Coach."
Yeah, and they know exactly what's coming.
That ain't fair. They gonna be. I ran that thing again, boy. When I hit that hole, I mean, poof, poof, poof. They were like torpedoes hitting me. I was trying to get down, and they were holding me up. It's like, okay, well, I won't ever run another touchdown against the first team defense. The scout team guy. Oh man,
Tom, I remember wearing Tommy Casanova's jersey before the LSU game. In '70 with that rain, and he played wing back and stuff, and ran a lot of reverses. And heck, I had on a purple jersey, number 37, and I survived the week, but it was nip and tuck.
Yeah.
Whew.
Well, we only lost one game that year, and that was LSU, and that was just something that happened. It happened so fast. I don't know if we could react to it.
If Dave
Well,
Beck would have been 3 inches taller, we'd won the
Yep.
ball. And I will say this. And I've told Burt Jones this many times when I'd run into him when I was still playing, that if we'd have played them 10 times, we'd have beat them 9. They won 6 ball games that year. They won 6 ball games and they beat us.
Yeah, they did.
To Hail Mary, basically. And it wasn't a day
one
back
over me.
that jump high enough, So I'll go to my grave, and even Warren Capone. I mean, I played with Warren Capone here in Birmingham with Birmingham, Maryland, and I would tell him all the time, if we had played you 10, would have been,
It's just tough.
We thought we were gonna get a chance to play them again in the bowl, and then we had to play Colorado, who had been number 1 most of the year. But
They were
we beat them.
They were preseason.
They were really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had
were
Bo
number
Matthews, a bunch of big guys. Michael, did you have anything
JB
else?
King.
Yeah, I did. I wanted to ask them both about this NIL and how you feel about this, given the time that you guys played. I know you had a different type of NIL at that time, but now it's one that's above board.
Right.
$15 a month.
Terry
Go
might have gotten some NIL. I didn't get much.
Michael, I want you to look at those two, and I want you to look at me. Who do you think got the NIL money? You understand? Playing here. Yeah.
Let me tell you, we got free tickets, and when we got our free tickets, we go give them to Terry so he could go sell them for us.
I mean, I've sold autographed footballs. I've sold everything,
Sounds good. Anybody else got anything?
I just want to ask you guys one question. All of you have referenced the Big O, who is James Owens, who was the first scholarship Black football player at Auburn University. What was it like playing with the Big O? I know his wife is on watching us this morning, so can you all just give us a little bit of history about Big O?
Roger, I'll take this first. Let me tell you that, and I got a cold chill here under my back right now. That it was a learning process for all of us. It was a learning process for James. It was a learning process for me, for Roger. We grew up in Thomas there. We grew up in small towns, small communities. We liked everybody. I carried James Owens home with me when I was a freshman, and I never forget he broke the slats in the bed because he was so big. Mother said he broke. James Owens. There's a reason that award is given to him, because it's a courage by him. It's a courage award, and to have the courage that he had to walk in with a bunch of rednecks like all of us and become one of us and we learn from him, is just something that I won't ever forget. He is a true friend of mine. He was Thomas and I were blessed to have been able to speak at his service, and I will forever be indebted and love the man.
Wonderful.
Roger?
Ditto. I have beat myself up a little bit over the years because we didn't realize the pain that, I wouldn't say pain, but James didn't know where to go. And sometimes, and we were young and so full of ourselves that until maybe the last year or two would we go out together and do some things. But I will say this, after the first day of practice with James and Thomas, I never saw any color whatsoever. I saw greatness, speed, friendship, people that loved Auburn too, wanted to be committed to Auburn University, and I never ever thought about the color. And that's just the way it was. James helped me through a very difficult time. He would just call me. Thomas did as well, may not even be aware of it, but it's just teammates for life. And I say that I think James was handpicked, and then you had Thom, who strutted on campus and showed out, and I was proud of him just as I was James. Thank y'all for what you did, and I'm just proud to be a small part of it.
James, I was a walk-on like you and I, so that meant you had to get your own meals. And so, man, I started class at 7 in the morning, and now it's 5, 6 in the evening. And I got to walk home and fix myself something to eat. But James would go upstairs in the dorm and get food and bring it down to his room and give it to me, and he was great. And I'll tell you this, one time, in the spring, they'd have you playing different positions, and they had me at safety. Yeah. And I looked up, man, and the hole opened up. The offense ran and played. The hole opened up, and James came through that hole with that horse collar on, and he was bucking. And I thought, oh my God, I could get paralyzed. I ain't about to run up there and try to hit him up high. So I grabbed him around the ankles.
You thought about going and joining the band at that time.
That's right. That was not a pleasant thing to look at, buddy. He was coming.
No.
Yeah,
so you made a business decision, didn't you, Tom?
Yeah,
Tom, you made a business decision, huh?
Yeah. I don't think there's anybody on that team that didn't love and respect James Owens.
I'll tell you funny before we leave here.
No.
Went to see James when he was in the hospital, and when I walked in the room, he was turned on his right side looking towards the door, but he was asleep. So I walked around on the other bed and hugged Gloria. She's sitting in a chair on the other side. And when I do, James turns over and looks at me, and he just looks at me. And I said, when you saw me, you thought you'd gone to heaven, didn't you? He said, no, when I saw you, I thought I was in someplace else. He had such a wit about him. He really did.
Yeah, he did. Any final comments from anybody?
Just we love all our teammates, and we could do it. I wish if I had one wish right now, I'd do it all over again.
And you're absolutely right about our teammates. And we had two guys, Gates and Rusty Fuller, who were roommates. Shit, they'd fight about every day. What's going on up there? That's Gates and Rusty. They're fighting again. It was a eclectic group. Let me just put it that way. So anyway, guys, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you at the reunion and seeing everybody. And
See you in a
it should
couple
be
of weeks.
great. Yeah.
Thank you all for having
Love
us on.
y'all. Bye.
Enjoy.
And
Yes, thank you
to
so
tell you
much.
about the strength of that team, Dave Lyons was going to be our quarterback that spring, and he got hurt. And he calls me every now and then, and we just talk because me and Dave, boy, we was excited about that year. He could get that ball to me, and it was going to be great. And then he got hurt. But we still talk, and I hadn't seen him, so it'll be good to see him because we've talked, but I hadn't seen him in God knows how long,
He
ahead,
lost his wife. He struggled.
Yeah.
He's been in a bad spot, but he's doing a lot better now, and I hope he'll be there. I'm pretty sure he will.
He said he would.
He's going to be, he's been chosen for the Courage Award, the James Owens Courage Award.
Oh, good.
Wow,
Great.
That's great. Okay, guys, thank you so much, man. We appreciate
Thank
you
you
guys being here.
War Eagle to all of you.
War Eagle.
So, my closing commentary for the day, or as I see it, we're now in our third season on TWT. So, where do we go from here? Well, we'll continue to give out good information. We reach people far and wide. We've had people on this year from Pakistan, China, Canada, and of course, all across the United States. We'll continue to have fun. We have a steady group that follows us. We appreciate you all. Thank you. Thank you for all of your support. Antley, that means you too, Antley. I'm just kidding. So let's continue to have fun. And don't forget, October 26th and 27th at the Goodge Performing Arts Center will be a production of Alabama Boys with myself and actor Michael O'Neill. And that's how I see it on this October 18th in the year 2022. That's our show for today. I want to thank the audience. We appreciate you. Thank Michael and Barbara. Thank Emily and Sean. Thank our G-List guests, Roger Mitchell and Terry Henley. Thank our sponsor, Best Girl Inc. Let's see. Remember to enjoy yourself. Make every day count. Stay safe. Peace.